Guys. Um, cool. Every,
Hello. Welcome to Night Talks. Arlene DeFury here, and I'm so happy to have with us today Tommy Hatton, class of 2015 SJR football player, going on to UNC. Pretty incredible. I hear he was a real stud and played for Coach Carthage for 3 years and then for Coach Hoffman. And he's going to tell us a lot about himself. So Tommy, you have a journey that's really worth talking about, and a lot of great lessons for everyone to learn from you. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
yeah, Arlene, first of all, I want to say thank you to you and Stephen for, giving me this opportunity to share a little bit about my story. I tell a lot of people about my journey at SJR. It was some of the finest years of my life, really molded me as a man, who I am, who I want to be. I've met a lot of great people through the community at St. Joe's. For me, I have a long way to go. I haven't, succeeded. Like TJ Kaleka was in here the other week, and he's really crushing it. I have a long way to go, but, I've learned a lot in the last, 5 years since I left St. Joe's, really in the last year when it came to starting my own business. So I'm going to start from the top, and the title of my talk is What I've Learned. I've learned some, really key lessons. I'm trying to learn a bit more every single day and continue to grow. But I'm going to share some of my insight into what I've learned. For the Q&A, guys, feel free to put.
Before we even go on, I just want to remind everyone that there is a place you can ask questions, and, we really love to hear questions, because then we know it's personalized to what you really want to get out of the conversation. So, Tommy is really willing and able to answer any questions you may have in whatever areas that you choose to talk about. So we encourage you, do ask questions. Thank you, Tommy.
Perfect. So I'm going to start here. The Man in the Arena by Theodore Roosevelt. This is a quote that I look at every single day, especially, the one that the credit belongs to the man who's actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust, sweat, and blood, who strives violently, who errs, who comes short again and again, who spends himself in worthy cause, but the best knows in the end of the triumph of high achievement, and who at worst, if he fails, at least he fails while daring greatly, so that his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who neither know victory nor defeat. And that's something I try to resemble my life around. I want to be the man in the arena. I want to be the one out there taking chances, striving. And it's not going to always be success. There's going to be, a lot of failures. That's just part of growing up. That's part of, being a man. That's part of taking chances. But the reality is when you fail, you learn, and you learn quickly, you learn fast, and you understand what went right and what went wrong, and you apply that to whatever's next. You're going to be struck with adversity in life. It's just part of growing up. And when you're faced with that adversity, you got to keep fighting. And there's going to be critics. There's going to be people telling you that you can't do this and that. That's just part of it. And you just got to keep fighting and keep believing in yourself. So I want to start at the top. Growing up, right? I'm from a small
cute kid up there.
I'm from a small town in Bergen County called Glen Rock. I'm sure you guys are all aware of it. It was a great town to grow up in. I have, a great family, 2 unbelievable parents who've done everything for me, put me in this position to be successful, and all the credit to them because they're unbelievable. And I have a sister, Amanda, who's great. She's really hardworking. We have a great family. They still reside in Glen Rock. Growing up, I went to Glen Rock Middle School. I wasn't a special athlete by any means. I was short, pretty chubby, hit puberty pretty late. I saw a lot of my peers who were better than me, who succeeded, better than I was when I was younger. And I used to be timid by them. I used to never think that I could go on to achieve great things just because I wasn't the biggest stud in 7th or 8th grade or even freshman year. I hadn't hit puberty and stuff like that. It definitely, took its toll mentally. But then, I went to Glen Rock Middle School and sports started to click. I was a pretty big wrestler. And, Glen Rock High School hasn't really produced that many great athletes. So I decided that I was going to, test the waters in the parochial schools. And obviously, I'm sure this slide's a bit conflicted. I grew up a big Bergen Catholic fan, which, I mean, is pretty funny to this day. I'm not a big,
Ooh,
I'm
hiss.
not a, I'm not a big Bergen Catholic fan anymore, let's just say. But I love, Coach Dave Bell was there, the wrestling coach. Like I mentioned, I was a wrestler, and I dreamed of being a Crusader, this and that. And I got introduced to Coach Hoffman pretty early on, and just the school at St. Joe's, and I just fell in love with it. I fell in love with that blue collar mentality. St. Joe's at the time when I got here, we weren't, we had lost to Ramapo the season before. We weren't really that great at football. And I kind of saw, hey, I could come here and really make something out of myself, really help this program continue to improve. And I decided to go to St. Joe's. I didn't really have many friends that were going there. It was a lot of my friends were going to Bergen Catholic. It was pretty it was out of the box decision for myself, but it was something that I just chose with my intuition. I had a good feeling about it, and I'll touch on my commitment to Carolina here in a couple minutes, but I kind of had a similar thought process. So I decided to go with the Green Knights, and let me tell you, it was the best decision I ever made. High school freshman year, I was fortunate to be surrounded by great people. I had great classmates, great teachers, great coaches. A couple to just shout out, Mr. Stephen Kenny. I think he's had a humongous impact in my life. He taught me what it's like to be a man, what it's like to steer away from the crowd and be different. And it's not always the cool thing per se to do. But just learning from him, he has been a very successful guy, and he's still one of my mentors to this day. I talk to him a lot and, try to pick his brain, and Mr. Mackey and Augie Hoffman, Tony Carson, just to name a few, along with all my classmates. It was a great experience at St. Joe's. We went on to win 3 football state championships, 2 number 1 teams in New Jersey back to back. A lot of memories, a lot of great friends, a couple heartbreaks, lots of Don Bosco on Thanksgiving when we were bound to be the national champions. And, that's still a memory that sticks to me to this day. In my junior year, I had received around 25 Division I offers. And, I had visited a bunch of schools all over the country, Georgia Tech, UNC Duke, Boston College, Maryland, South Carolina, all over the place had offers, pretty much every single conference. And, I kind of had this gut feeling. I had visited Carolina. I felt like it would be a great place for me. And I got a call from their coaches, and, they pretty much told me, like, listen, we have a guy from North Carolina who is going to commit. We want you, you're number 1 on our board. If he commits, we'll still take you. But, if you commit to us, we won't take him. We want you. And I only had visited down there one time. But I had this feeling, my intuition, again, that I spoke about when I committed to Joe's or came to Joe's, same thing for Carolina. And I just had a feeling that if I didn't commit there, I would regret it. I felt like it would be a tough decision. So in my junior year and around June time frame, I committed to the University of North Carolina. I didn't know one person there, had no insights into the school. It just felt right. And sometimes in life, you just got to trust your gut. Your gut's telling you something. It's usually the right move. Obviously, do your homework, evaluate. Don't make blind decisions. Always make sure that you're well read and you understand both sides. But let me tell you, going to Carolina, 5 years later, best decision I've ever made. And this is a picture from National Signing Day. This is Joe Giles Harris, one of my best friends even to this day, who plays for the Jacksonville Jaguars. And he's doing pretty well for himself. We, competed against each other at Duke. So, get to Carolina, an Under Armour All-American, one number 2 center in the country, top players. I get to UNC, deal with a couple injuries pretty early on. Start struggling a little bit with my mental health. Really started going into a dark place. I was just kind of worn out with football at the time. My body was beat down. I had ankle surgeries and dealt with ankles all that my redshirt year. And in the summer, I seeked out some help from a team chaplain, and some people got my mind back into it. And in a week or two, I had to step away from the team and, came back into workouts and ended up starting my redshirt freshman year. Was ACC Player of the Week twice. Ended up being a freshman All-American. And, got to compete against, my first start in college was against the Georgia Bulldogs in the Georgia Dome, which was a pretty surreal feeling. You know, you grow up as a kid dreaming about running out on that field in front of hundreds of thousands of people, and to actually do it, I mean, it was pretty crazy, pretty crazy. And you know, the crazy thing too is once you run out on that field, you kind of forget the crowd's there. There's a lot of people there and stuff, but you know, it's just football at the end of the day. You're just out there, just like high school. You know, inside the white lines, you can't hide. Same thing in life. That's why football and business and everything has so much application, because you know, you can talk, you can do all this hoorah stuff, but when it comes down to business, you either get the job done or you don't. And that's what I loved about football. You know, you had all these people who were flashy, who looked great in tights, who looked great when they were warming up. But when it came to it, you know, they were nowhere to be found. And that's the same thing in life. And you'll seek that out. Sometimes people will want to talk, you know, especially in sales. You'll hear a lot of people, when people start name dropping a lot of people that they know. Oh, I know this guy, I know that guy, I know that guy. They're usually full of crap. So look out for those people. Not saying that you shouldn't have respect for them. You should respect everyone, but just be wary about it, because those are, you know, some things that I've seen in the game of football. Inside the white lines, you can't hide. In life, you can't hide. You know, everything's going to come to fruition at some point. But I changed it.
Tommy, if I can interrupt you just 1 second.
Yeah.
I know that you made a commitment to football like pretty early on. I saw something online in terms of, there was a bed hanging, there was a sign that you put over your bed when you were a young kid. Could you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm very goal oriented. That's just always how I've been growing up. I think even to this day, I write my goals out and I look at them frequently. And obviously they're a lot different than they were, you know, before, but one of my goals was to play in the NFL. And when I was a sophomore in high school, I hung a poster above my bed that said, I will play in the NFL. You know, that was my goal. That's all I worked for. My parents didn't make me get a summer job growing up. It was just, hey, train for football, you know, just continue to train, get better. So it was everything I strived for. It's all I cared about. Even my roommates here, when I first got to Carolina, you know, I didn't really have that much fun. I always just was worried about ball. And I mean, that was definitely great. And I definitely think being goal oriented is, I think there's a little balance that you can have, and you can have your goals, but you can also, you know, have your fun and your social and this and that. But yeah, I mean, I think setting goals is super important. You hold yourself accountable and you're constantly competing against yourself. So yeah, I had that poster. Even when I went to college, I had it above my bed that said, I'll play in the NFL. Mm-hmm. But you know, things change.
Absolutely.
The life throws you curveballs. So after my redshirt freshman year, you know, ACC Player of the Week, freshman All-American, going into my second season as a starter, and the third day of training camp, took a hit to the head, and you know, woke up in the hospital 6 hours later. It was my fourth concussion, and you know, over the course of the next 6 months was, you know, really the toughest time of my life. For the first, you know, couple months, I couldn't even leave a dark room. My head was hurting all the time. It was just it was a horrible experience. I couldn't really be in the light. I couldn't be around people. But slowly but surely, my head started to get a lot better. I was able to, you know, go back to normal human activities, read, able to be out, you know, be outside and stuff like that. That, you know, progressed me to about December of 2017 at the time. At that point, UNC is, you know, notorious for concussion research. Our chancellor, Guskowitz, is actually one of the leading minds in concussion research. He's noted by the NFL. He's recognized by a lot of people. And I met with him and a variety of different doctors around the United States, and they all came to the same conclusion, that I shouldn't play the game of football anymore. And as you can imagine, it was the hardest decision of my life, because, you know, football is all I knew forever. It was what really defined my life. It's what molded me. It's what I woke up. It was my goal and my dream to play in the NFL. So when I finally made that decision, you know, to step away from the game of football, it was like I lost my identity. You know, I didn't really know who I was outside the game of football. You know, you spend a lot of time doing one thing. You don't really get to explore very much. And so that's what you know, some advice I would give here is that I've learned is, even if you're, you know, a stud football player, I mean, we have a million, right? We have so many good players. I hope some of you guys are on here right now, but to look up and read and figure out other things that are going on, because the reality of things is that 1% of people go and play in the NFL. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't dream, and hopefully we have a bunch of guys that go on to play a long time in the league and do all the right things. But the reality of it is when you're done playing football, you're going to have more of your better life to live. And you better like have a plan of action, because what are you going to do? You know, at that point, your life's not over. No one's going to feel bad for you anymore. It's really, you know, you got to go out there and make the most of it. So pick up your head when you're going through some of this, understand, you know, like there's other things out there in this world besides football. Football gives you so much, like so many criterias, you know, how it lets you work hard, how to work hard with teammates, how to be accountable, how to be efficient. That's stuff that is an employer's dream. Let me tell you, talking to people, they want to hire athletes. And so use that, take those lessons that you learn inside the game of football and apply it to whatever's next. And that's kind of what I've tried to do here in the last couple months. So after football ended, I, you know, had to hang up the cleats in January of 2018. You know, I didn't really know what to do. Again, like I mentioned, football is my whole life. I didn't read. I didn't care about school that much, just to be completely honest. And that's obviously a mistake. And we can talk about it here at the end. But, you know, I've always been goal oriented. I've always needed, you know, something to hold on to strive for. And, you know, at Carolina, I started networking with people there, people who were really big into entrepreneurship, worked on a couple of ventures. From there, I got connected with my partners now, Sasha and Andrew. Sasha and Andrew were both UNC students. They graduated in 2015. Sasha went to work for McKinsey and Company. Andrew went to work for African Leadership University. And they had this idea to create almost a Rosetta Stone or Duolingo for helping basketball players better learn their playbooks. They realized pretty quickly that there was a lot more information that needed to be diagnosed inside the game of football. I got connected with them through a mutual friend. In the summer of 2018, starting in June, we created this app. You know, we sub-licensed the platform. So kind of getting into the entrepreneur sphere. One thing they'll tell you, and you'll hear a lot, is if you're going to lose fast and lose cheaply. And that's one thing I think we did really well pretty early on, is before we invested in the infrastructure of our app, we tested the idea. We used a sub-licensed platform that had a lot of the functionalities that, you know, we potentially could see in our platform. And we baited out the idea from Michigan with Michigan football and UNC football. Got really good feedback from them and decided to go forward and code our own app and launch at the Under Armour All-American game back in 2019. And so what is Learn to Win? Learn to Win is a high-performance micro-learning platform. What is micro-learning? I'm going to get into this a little bit more here later on. But micro-learning is all about breaking down information into digestible bite-sized chunks. The days of, you know, doing 100-slide learning modules, cognitive science has shown that people can't retain information over 7 minutes. And, you know, it's pretty skewed because in the academic setting, all our lectures are 50 minutes, even in colleges, stuff like that. But that's really not the best way to learn. Learn is by quick, interactive, digestible, bite-sized chunks. We give, you know, coaches, Air Force pilots, and now enterprise people the ability to create this content quickly, efficiently, almost like creating a PowerPoint. And our platform is built for the most demanding training applications, which I'll get into now. And so how does Learn to Win? Let me see. Skip this slide. Okay, sorry. So how does Learn to Win help, you know, coaches, companies, the military solve this problem? There's a couple, you know, characteristics of our platform. One is the convenience. Our platform is a mobile-first platform. You know, people could do it on their phones, their laptops, their tablets. In this day and age, you know, this is, you guys know, we grew up with technology. This is where we're spending a lot of time. So employees, coaches, you know, enterprise, Air Force pilots, they can send quick and efficient training modules to their athletes' phones that they can take, and they get real-time analytics into exactly what their players understand and what they don't. The content
example of one of these modes, what would a training module be for, let's say, football? What would be one module, for example?
Yeah, I'm going to get to that. It's coming up here in a couple slides. But so the second part of it is the ease of the content creation. So again, guys, you know, a lot of football coaches, they're smart in their own rights, but a lot of them aren't tech savvy, right? And same thing, people don't want to spend hours creating, training content. So we had to make this platform that's easy to navigate, easy to use, efficient. And so you can create these pedagogically sound, scaffolding micro learning lessons, almost as easy as you would create a PowerPoint. We have all different preset templates that you can use. And then after these targeted lessons that you hand out, lessons and quizzes, you're able to get real-time analytics. So you can see exactly what your players, what the Air Force pilots, what medical device sales reps aren't understanding. And that way you can go in and you can send a follow-up material and really break that down for them. So again, this is kind of, a gift on the right you're seeing here is what our platform looks like. Again, kind of highlighting some of the reasons why micro-learning is so relevant is because, training can be created at the unit level. So a coach, a player, an Air Force pilot, they can create these lessons quickly, efficiently, and push them out. And they're way more relevant and attention's higher than your traditional hour-long learning module, right? It just doesn't work. I mean, I think we can all say no one wants to sit for an hour and, look at a learning module that's not interactive. It's just boring. Flexible, because the lessons can be accessed anywhere, tablets, computers, mobiles, anywhere. And in this day and age, everyone's always on their phone. We spend a lot of time there. So, if you can get information to your phone, diagnose it in 3 to 5 minutes and do it, repetition, there's a way better chance that you're going to be successful, whether that be on the field, whether that be as an Air Force pilot, whether that be, as a sales rep in the gas and oil field, whatever it may be. The more times you rep this, and this a lot of times we're doing stuff with emergency protocol. So, for instance, for our Air Force pilots, there's a bunch of emergency protocols that pilots need to learn. Like just say you're in an airplane and your axle breaks down. There's a 10-step instruction that you need to know. Well, the only way the Air Force was really drilling this was by giving a test, which, we all just cram for, the day before we go in, we take the test, we pass it, but we didn't actually learn. With our platform, we're able to send out 3 to 5 minute learning modules to Air Force pilots that they can review, every couple of weeks on emergency protocols. So when they're stuck in one of these situations, there's a way higher chance of them, being successful. And then accountable, because there's analytics, you're able to see what they got right, what they got wrong, you're able to see what the progress they made. So it's not like, with some of these huddle playbooks, other things I'm talking on the sports side, you can flip through 15 out of 15 diagrams on huddle playbook in 3 minutes, not learn anything. And coach, it says, yes, you went through and you completed it. But coach doesn't really know, did you understand it? What were the pain points? What were the deficiencies? So this gives, coaches, again, people the ability to really get insight into the problems that they're facing, really break this down. And so when they get into the room with you guys, they can take 20 minutes to go over the pain points and don't need to lecture for an hour and 15 minutes on every little aspect of every little thing. And realistically, you zone off and you don't understand it. So again, micro-learning is all about 3 to 5 minute digestible bite-sized chunks. So this is the back end of our platform. Again, like I said, we took it from, these huge stacks of papers that they give out to this quick, efficient, easy to create. And this is our version 2 of the platform coming out here in a couple months. New interface, and just make it really easy to take videos, take pictures, and create quick and efficient training material. And this is a little gift, Arlene, kind of going into your questions, and we could dive in deeper into the platform if you guys want to see more examples. But as a coach, you can come in here, you can ask a quiz question, the players have to answer it, and they get, real-time analytics and feedback. And this is kind of the, simulation from a medical device of, what it can look like on their phone. Again, the cool thing with Learn to Win is there's a ton of flexibility, right? We started in sports. We work with, close to about 100 football teams, ranging from the Browns to the University of Georgia to St. Joe's Montvale to Ole Miss in North Carolina to, high schools all over. We work with the United States Air Force. We have 2 Department of Defense contracts with them. And now we're really venturing into the enterprise. And, there's a lot of opportunities. One that we're exposing right now is in medical device sales. Just the way that they teach reps and doctors and stuff.
Yeah.
is just, not adequate. It's brutal, just to be completely honest. And there's some real opportunity for disruption. So, just a lot of new avenues that we're going into, but our team's growing by the day. We just hired on a senior engineer from Facebook to come really lead engineering in-house, and really looking forward to, taking these next strides. And then again, as a
You
coach,
basically started with the sports, and then you really branched out from there, correct, Tommy? Is that correct? The
yes,
first
ma'am.
audience was the sports, the
Yeah,
people and
yes, I guess I didn't do a great job highlighting that. I can, go into
no, that's fine. But did you have program experiencing yourself, or was that your partners, or how did you?
Yeah.
You had the knowledge in terms of the football kind of thing. I guess that's what they relied on you for, particularly, right?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, obviously. So none of us are technical, which is pretty crazy. And, we could get into the development work. So that's, a lot of stuff that, founders deal with right now. If you don't have a technical person on your team, software development's a lot of money. You're not paying for goods. It's not like real estate or construction, but you're paying for these people's time. And to find a really high skilled engineer when you're trying to build an intricate platform, you're talking about a couple $100,000s when it's said and done. Fortunately for us, there was a group of students at UNC who started an app called UConnection, sold it to a private equity firm, and started a small shop where they did early stage development called Hyperspace Ventures. And they helped us get off the ground. They took a little equity into our company early on, and they did the early stage development. We then since transitioned to a new development company called Tidepool Labs. And then now we're trying to go completely internal by 2020. We just raised a seed. I can't disclose who was the lead investor. That should be coming out here in the next, couple weeks. But now we're really trying to hire on completely in-house technical team by the end of 2020. We just recruited an engineer from Facebook to be our VP of engineering, Morgan Howell, who's a complete stud, lives out in Palo Alto, and trying to get, 5 more engineers by the end of 2020 from top tech companies, and really, take this thing from, where we're at to the next level. So, that's kind of the challenge now. We hear all the time is a lot of founders, a lot of people with ideas aren't technical. Don't let that discourage you guys. There's a lot of opportunity. But if you don't need a real technical background, obviously we can get into project management and all that stuff. If you guys have questions on that, I can try to answer it to my best of my ability. But, again, there's a lot of mediums and avenues to, get an app developed or something like that. So if you guys want to learn more about that or hear more, I'd be happy to answer that in Q&A. But if not, then we can kind of proceed. But again, analytics, so coaches, whoever it is, can see insight. They can see what players got right, what they got wrong, what their pain points are. So when we go into a meeting or a walkthrough, instead of us walking through every little thing, let's walk through the things that the players are struggling with, or make sure we're covering tape or doing something like that. So our platform, gives analytics, gives insight to their coaches, whoever it is, and really, breaks down that information. So again, this is my last slide, and then I'm going to do a lot of Q&A. What I have learned. So again, like I mentioned, guys, I'm nowhere near established yet. I have a long way to go. I'm still grinding. I'm still trying to really, make it, quote unquote, whatever that means. But, I've learned a lot in the last couple of years. Been fortunate enough to start a business and be able to work on it full time. I'm moving out to California. We just raised a seed round, so we have a lot of good stuff going on. But again, we have really high expectations for what we want for this company and where we want to take it. So, excited to be on a great team.
Why California? Is there more
Partly our lead investors are from venture capital fund out in California, and my 2 partners are just graduating Stanford Business School. And so we're going to get an office out in Palo Alto. So
nice.
Yeah, so not Burlingame, which is a town between San Francisco and Palo Alto, sorry. But yeah, so yeah, we're going to be out there. I'm an East Coast guy through and through, so I see myself coming back at some point. But hey, you got to chase the dream when you're young, at least, I think. So what have I learned? I've learned do not be afraid to steer away from the crowd. You'll have a lot of friends who go into investment banking or go into be a CPA. don't get me wrong. That's all cool. You got to do what makes you happy, but don't be afraid to take a chance, be bold, do something that's different. It might, like the man in the arena, people might criticize you, people might say this and that, but as long as you're happy and you're chasing your dream, that's all that matters. Second thing, especially for you guys heading to college, I saw one of the questions that I got. Well, what advice would you have for a senior 2020? This is one of the biggest keys of advice. Make friends with people that are different with you. If you're a football player, like, don't just hang around with football guys. I'm telling you, that's a mistake through and through. I used to be in the same position. Football guys band together. We're all manly. We're this and that. No, man, that's just a naive way to look at things. Meet people outside of football. Meet people who have different interests, different hobbies, and learn to, they'll become your best friends, and ask them questions. And, everyone comes from different walks of life. So make friends with new people. This is one that's really important. I would advise everyone to do this. Seek out mentors. I've had so many great people in my life that I consider mentors. One of my mentors honestly passed away not too long ago, and I'm still honestly pretty sad about it, Mr. Jim Tracy from Glen Rock. But I have had so many mentors, and when I've been struck with tough situations, because, being an early stage company, there's a lot from finance situations to equity to whatever you have to figure out. Lean on people who have a lot more life experience than you do. These guys and girls who, whoever you talk to, they've been successful in their respect. So, listen to them, listen to a lot of people, and use them as resources. So really seek out mentors. Don't be afraid to send out LinkedIn messages. Don't be afraid to ask people to go get cups of coffee. You're thinking, hey, I'm a senior in college or I'm a junior. Start now. Start now. I'm telling you, in the long run, it really is all about who you know and not about what you know. Seriously, and I'll touch on that. Stay open-minded. Again, I know it's really, easy to be closed-minded, to look down on people, do that. I'm not going to sit here and say I'm perfect. I've definitely done that when I was younger. I looked down on people that maybe weren't athletes or that. I think that's the stupidest thing that, I did, honestly. And just being blunt about it, that is just a brutal thing to do. Be open-minded, stay open-minded, listen to people's opinions. In this day and age, one thing that's really sad is people can't have a good conversation anymore. People get their feelings hurt. Everyone gets up in arms if you say anything. I just don't understand it. Just everyone's entitled to their opinion. Don't get upset about it. Don't get sad. Don't get mad. Don't get frustrated. Be open-minded. Have good conversations. Learn from people. And, even if their opinions aren't the same as yours, that's good. You don't want to be around people who have the same opinions as you, or you're literally going to be like, you're never going to grow. I think that's super important. This is obviously pretty corny, but dream big. I'm a dreamer. I really am. I have huge goals for myself. I have huge ambitions. I'm not even close to where I want to get to. But don't, dream big, and never let anybody tell you that your dream is not possible. Because let me tell you, if you're willing to work hard for it, not make excuses, and get up every single day and fight for it, you can do it. If you want to just hand it to you on a silver platter and think it's just going to fall in your lap, it's not. And I'll be the first one to tell you, it's not. And you're going to be sitting back and asking, why not me? Why didn't this happen? Don't make excuses. I think that's a huge key. Never make excuses. And when you want to make an excuse, tell yourself that nobody cares. Because in this world, and I'm not trying to tell you guys be too blunt, but I'm just being honest, like, people don't care about your excuses. They're not going to care. And as soon as you can realize that, hey, you either get it done or you don't get it done, it's pretty black and white, the better you'll be off. And I'm telling you, it's something that I've learned pretty quickly. It's that you either get it done or you don't get it done. And that's why, I think sports helps you so much with that, because you either win or lose, right? Same thing in life. You either win or lose, and you want to win. So don't make excuses. Don't let people feel bad for yourself. Get up every day and fight. And then, the last key part of advice I'd give you is, when you're struck with adversity, you're left with two underlying choices. Feel bad for yourself, which, let me tell you, no one's going to feel bad for you, no matter what. Obviously, you're going to have hard times. There's going to be difficult situations. I went through some stuff with mental health, and you definitely need to get yourself right. And I'm not saying that you can't have moments where you're down and things are tough and, there's anxious times all the time. But don't feel bad for yourself. Don't just fester in your bed. Don't just lay there. keep going. Even when you're through a tough situation, keep on going, keep on striving. Maybe sometimes you might need a breather. That's fine. Take a breather, but don't ever quit, because once a quitter, always a quitter. And so keep going, keep getting up, keep fighting. And your choices are, you feel bad for yourself, or 2, you get up and you continue to fight. And that's the biggest thing I've taken. When I stopped playing football, I think a lot of kids, when they don't make it to the NFL or whatever it is, they have to stop playing. A lot of them, go down bad paths. They don't know what to do. Trust me, I was stuck in that same situation. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what was next. But the reality of things is, I got up, I networked, got a lot of mentors, I met a lot of people, and I kept on going. I kept on striving. And I'm nowhere near where I want to be. I keep saying that, but it's gotten me to this point. And, I didn't grow up with a silver spoon in my hand. I wasn't handed anything. I've worked for everything I ever had. So if you have a dream and you want to make it happen, go out there, be bold, steer away from the crowd. Don't be afraid to ask questions. Don't be afraid to seek out mentors, and work hard at it every single day, and give everything you have. And let me tell you, it's a pretty fulfilling journey. It's something that I've loved. I just graduated college in December. I was a political science major. I know that was one of the questions asked. We could touch on that. I think school is very important, guys. Don't get me wrong. But if you don't get into the business school or something like that, it's not the end of the world. Control what you can control. Continue to read. There's so much free knowledge out there on the internet. There's so many books that you can read. There's so many things. I think a great book that everyone should read is The Third Door. Talks about a student from USC, just a really good story, who goes around and follows some of the most influential people in the world, interviews them, like Warren Buffett, Bill Gates, Tony Zhao, a bunch of different people, and talks about his journey. Really good for guys your age. I think you can learn a lot. Very influential, very inspiring, but also at the same time a great learning and growing book. So again, guys, my name is Tommy Hatton. I really enjoyed connecting with you guys, and I'm going to open up the floor now and answer any questions you guys have. Feel free to shout them out, and I'll try to answer them to the best of my ability. And if I don't know the answer to it, I'll try to get your name and find the answer and shoot you guys an email or something like that. But again, thank you guys so much for tuning in, hearing a little bit about my story, and excited to field some of y'all's questions.
I know I have a question that was actually put by Coach Morangi. How is the companies like XOS Digital and Huddle? They pretty much have the market cornered with the video software and can be very proprietary with their programs. Have you been able to integrate their formats into your platform?
Yeah, great question, Coach Morangi. Yeah, that's something that we definitely are striving for. Huddle's a little bit harder to play with than Exos. Exos actually has an open source API that our developers are looking to really tag into. We're building some features into our own platform, a screen capture tool, other stuff like that, to really try to make it easier to play with Huddle and Exos. Exos, we think there's an opportunity. Our developers have looked into a connection API. And when I'm talking about an API, guys, an API is pretty much a switch that connects two platforms together. So an API, when you'll be on a website, and I'm trying to think of an example, but pretty much it's when you're able to access data from one site when you're on another site. Same thing, in software. And so we're trying to build different APIs that really make sense. Huddle, our goal is, I think we've done pretty well. We've gotten a lot of really good teams. We had a conversation with them pretty early on last year. We weren't really that established, but the goal is to try to go to them and maybe solidify a partnership. I'm not quite sure what would be in it for them, just because, again, I don't really know, but obviously if it was a little bit easier to play with their film and bring it into our platform, obviously our users would be a lot happier. But we have some features to try to, offset some of that workflow and stuff like that. The screen capture tool, which is pretty much a snipping tool, if you guys can imagine, but native to our platform, where you can record pictures and videos and drag them into your lesson and quizzes and stuff like that. So, and then again, wrapping it up here in terms of Exos and Huddle, Axos and Huddle are really good for, video streaming and displaying. Our platform, we kind of say all the time, is we're a e-learning tool that's applied to sports.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of our differentiator. We're not trying to compete with Huddle, nor would we ever be able to. They dominate the market. I think there's a niche in with Huddle, your players can go in there and watch film, but as a coach, there's not really a way for you to be able to teach them when you're not physically with them. And we think that's kind of where our platform steps in.
What do you see as your next niche, Tommy, as far as maybe corporations or particular business fields?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of opportunity in medical device, whether that be training doctors on, medical devices, orthopedic devices, training medical device reps. Pretty much, I mean, the coolest thing with our platform is, last week we had a conversation with the New Jersey State Troopers. We're talking to a lot of trucking logistics companies. I mean, currently, just to give you an example of one company that we're talking to, a company down in North Carolina, currently they have 23 terminals around the Southeast. It's a trucking logistics company. They fly all of, those 23 locations down to one in Charlotte to train. And their training entails going over a 217-page manual, which for 2 weeks. So if you think about it, it's costly because you got to pay to fly them there. You got to pay to house them. You got to pay for all their meals. It's obviously not efficient because no one's learning from a 217-page manual. And then after the fact, there's no type of continuation training. There's no assessment after. There's no way to push knowledge. So with our platform, you can, for what we're doing with the Air Force, they had a similar 7-week in-class service. Now they shortened it down to 3 weeks. We saved them $1.75 million. We think there's real opportunity inside of enterprise to do the same thing because it's like you could teach these people better and more efficiently through their phones or mobile devices, and you can do more continuation training after the fact, right? And they could buy in because it's not going to be these 50-minute learning modules which word for word, people literally will put a stapler on the space bar to go by. It's these 3 to 5 minute quick, high repetition modules that really people can buy into. And I think there's a lot of opportunity. I mean, the ones that we're really exploring right now is the medical device industry, gas and oil refining, and trucking logistics. But there's just an abundance of opportunities, and we're really now going after those industries. And then the last one is law enforcement with the training. But so, yeah, just really kind of pivoting off the military kind of makes sense with law enforcement, but they face a lot of the same issues that our Air Force clients face. So
that had a good contract. How much money did you have to put up? Was it a huge investment for you? You don't have to say exactly, but was it a huge investment for you as far as becoming a partner here in this kind of company? Yeah,
I mean, I put a lot of sweat equity into it. I was fortunate to not really have, to cough much of my own money up. Sasha and Andrew put the money in, but they were able to repay themselves. Again, our contract with the Air Force, we hit a $750,000 contract last July, and hit another $1.25 million contract with the Navy. So, and just raised $4 million. So in terms of the funding, at this point, we're in a really, good situation and just trying to continue to build this thing. But yeah, I mean, that's part of, early on, you got to have a little capital, especially I was lucky for Sasha and Andrew. Sasha went to work for McKinsey & Company and stuff, and they coughed up, invested. I don't know the exact number that they put into it, but, granted, they were able to pay themselves back pretty quickly. And again, that's just, I think, being part of being an entrepreneur, you got to take the chances and risk. And that's part of, that's part of it. Now, granted, I was lucky. Another thing that was lucky for me is on the early stages of the company, I was still in college. So I had college really backing me. I was on a full scholarship at UNC. So I wasn't needing to make any money or do stuff. But now that I'm out of school, we're in a great position and I'm able to, live my life and work on this full time.
That's great. Now, are you able to get a salary at this point?
Yes, ma'am.
Cool. Great.
Let me go into the Q&A. Oh, Stephen Kenny. Mr. Kenny, what's going on? Tom, how hard is it to deal with the realization that you're not attaining your lifelong goal of being in the NFL? What specifically did you overcome in disappointment and frustration? How would you advise other athletes? Great question, Mr. Kenny. Thank you for joining too. Like I mentioned, Mr. Kenny was one of my, biggest mentors even to this day, and I think the world of him. And he's a great guy, and he was the one, who really told us to steer away from the crowd and be different and be bold. Mr. Kenny, I know we talked about this on the phone, so this is great to hash out. I think at some point, it was definitely disappointing. I shed a lot of tears. It was really difficult, but the reality of things is, you're not dead. You're not dead. You got a long life to live, and no one's going to feel bad for you. And you give me this analogy a lot of time. I just didn't want to be that guy who, was at the bar when I was 40 years old, drinking on beer, talking about how, like, what I used to be and stuff like that. I don't know. For me, it was just kind of not a choice. I was like Mr. Tracy said to me, it's get up and continue to fight. And I worked hard at it, and I'm still working hard at it. But it was, don't get me wrong, it's hard. My friends are just drafted in the NFL, and granted, I'm really happy for where my life is right now, and I'm just so happy for them. There's definitely like little moments that you're like, man, I miss football, I miss this, but I don't know. It was difficult, for a couple weeks, couple months, but again, I think you just don't really have a choice. When you're struck with that moment, you can either just like dwell on it and I don't know what that's going to get you, or you just try to find something else. And you take those values of that hard work, the being a great teammate, working well with others, and you apply it to other things. I mean, you're an employer's dream. So, Mrs. Ambrosio, thank you for putting that in. You're awesome, and thank you for being here and listening to me. That you guys are great. Our families have known each other for a while, and I haven't talked to Chris in a while, but I hope he's doing well, and hope Tony is as well. Scott, seeing your question now, beyond the easy networking among football communities, how did you break it into non-sport area for business? How do you sell non-sport entities on coaching products or football?
In other words, getting into the, military and the.
Yeah. Okay, so I'll start with your first question, Scott. Thank you for sending it in. I know we've talked on LinkedIn a while, so thank you for being on here. It means a lot. I don't know. I know that's not a great place to start, but I think it's just reaching out and asking people to get cups of coffee and being open-minded. I think the first thing you need to figure out, though, is what you want to exactly do. And a lot of people don't know what they want to do. So that's not the worst thing in the world. You got to find something that really interests you, I think, whether that be finance, whether that be real estate, whether that be tech, and seek out, people who work in those industries. And if you don't know what you want to do, use your initial conversation as almost a discovery call where you call them up. You just want to hear. And people love to talk about themselves. That's the best part. So when you go in, you ask them a bunch of questions, you hear about their career. And, if you're a good guy and, you've done right by people, I think people are going to be willing to help you out, especially when you're a senior in high school or you're in college. Everyone's been in your position. That's what I say a lot of times. Everyone's been, a senior in high school. Everyone's been a junior in college. Everyone knows what that feeling of uncertainty is. And so if you seek it out, more times than not, people are going to want to help you out. They're going to want to answer your phone, their call. They're going to want to, connect you with somebody else. I would say the biggest thing, things I've seen is never hit up somebody and ask for a job. It's just bad. That's bad all around. You want to talk to somebody about, their career and what they've done and how they've gotten to the place they are and what lessons they've learned and other stuff like that. You don't want to call somebody and be off the bat, hey, can I ask for a job? A lot of times, especially when you're talking, you're going to ask, what do you want to do? And they might have a connection. Hey, talk to this person. And it just happens organically. But in your first message to people, it's all about them. They want to focus a lot of their time on themselves. They'll talk about themselves ad nauseum. So ask them the questions, field what they do, learn about it. Do a little research before you talk to people. Don't go in there and know nothing about the person. Understand who you're talking to. Be respectful of people's time. if you say you're going to call somebody at 1 o'clock, call them at 1 o'clock. Don't call them at 1:05. That's just a bad representation of character. Again, things come up. Don't get me wrong. I'm sure people are busy and things are going to happen. Shoot them a note. If you're going to be late, tell them and be honest and be straight up. Punctuality, I think, is just respect. And, if you're not punctual, again, things happen. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that, you have a flat tire, your phone service is brutal, but just be, honest. And if you are going to be late, have at least a solid reason for why. So, again, I know that was a long-winded answer, but don't be afraid to just reach out to people. Take a chance on reaching out to people and figure out what you want to do. Set up some conversations. Again, people love to talk about themselves. Get them talking about themselves. There'll be some natural synergy, I'm sure, in there that you'll be able to pivot. For your second questions, how do we get into the sport entities like the government, stuff like that? Sasha and Andrew, my partners, are at Stanford Business School, and there was a class called Hacking for Defense, which they pretty much brought military problems inside a room of all Stanford MBAs. One of the biggest problems was, Air Force retention. They hadn't changed the way that pilots learned in 40 years, which is a problem. And currently, when pilots would do module trainings, they would have to drive 17 minutes off the base, take it on 1990 computer, and record their scores in a physical, binder, which, as you can imagine, is a nightmare. So we piloted it out with, two Air Force bases, Beale and Tinker. And then there was an SBIR Phase 2 contract, which is Small Business Institute of Research, with a group called AFWERX, which is the innovation wing of the Air Force, which we applied for and we got. And what the SBIR is, or just, getting into that, is a lot of times when you see these tech companies and other companies, they'll get off the ground government contracts. It's actually a really lucrative way to go about doing stuff because they don't take equity into you. It's almost fielding a seed round. And what like a Phase 2 contract in our, light is pretty much, we worked with the Air Force Inspection Agency, and they pretty much say, hey, we want to pilot out this program with our group. And AFWERX, the group, funds the project. And so there's, all different things you have to do. There's 5 different installations on payments, work that you have to hit, different criteria before you get paid. It's pretty intricate. We recently just received the news that we got a Phase 3 contract, which is big news for us. And what Phase 3 means is a sole proprietor. So the Air Force Inspection Agency will learn to win with their own money, or they're going to. And that's a really, once you can cross over into that Phase 3, there's a lot of upside. A lot of companies don't make it past Phase 2. They can never really get off the ground. So, super exciting on our end.
Congratulations. Fabulous.
Thank you. And this is similar work on the Navy side. So again, we didn't expect to venture into this, kind of fell in our lap, but obviously, proof of work. I think the military loves football and sports and vice versa. And the fact that we were working with, Michigan and football, Michigan football and UNC football and the West Points and high schools all around the country, they kind of see themselves as athletes, even though it's, military is a lot more life and death than football is. And the synergy there, I think, got them excited. And then we were able to do some great work. And they have learning challenges that we feel like our platform really addresses. And so, again, Scott, it kind of fell in our laps. It was never planned, never expected. But obviously, there's a lot of opportunity inside of military. A lot of companies will build their whole company on government contracts. I don't know if we're going down that route, but yeah, there's a lot of opportunities. So I hope, that answered that question. Hillary, thank you so much for the question. What was one business lesson you learned that you feel was the most impactful? Wow. Wow, that's a great question. One that's the most impactful. I think, there's a couple, definitely. One thing that Mr. Tracy, my mentor, who passed away recently, shared with me is, a company's lucky to have you, not vice versa. And don't be afraid to speak up. If, you see something that's wrong or something that's not going right, don't be afraid to speak up and sound the alarm. You're doing it because you believe in the vision, you believe in the company, you want to see it be successful. not because you're trying to be an a-hole by any means or anything like that. So I think that's one thing. And I think another thing is just, continue to network. You never know who you're going to talk to. I've had conversations with people that I didn't think was even not worth my time. That's a bad way to preference it, but just there was no application where I saw a reason for us to connect. But I picked up the phone and had, called them, and sometimes it's led to, different connections. So, don't be afraid to network. Don't be afraid to get out there and put yourself out there. And I don't know. And I would just say, the last thing, obviously this is pretty like obvious, but continue to learn. I think, there's fixed and there's growth mindset. Fixed is you're stuck in where you're at. Growth is you're continuing to always strive and want to get better. I think, the biggest thing is if you're content, you're never going to continue to get better. You're not going to get to the places you want to get to. But if you work hard at it, you continue to read, you continue to grow, and you read. There's a lot of free knowledge out there. And so I would just say read, especially young. You guys are in high school right now, especially pick up a book, make goals for yourself. Hey, I want to read a book a month, or I want to read a book every 6 months, or 6 weeks or something like that. It will help, increase your overall vocabulary. It'll help increase just your knowledge. And there's, you don't have to just read business books by any means. Read whatever, interests you. But I would say, the Third Door is a great book. I'd really highly recommend it. So yeah, those are some of the insights I've learned. Obviously got a long way to go and a lot of great things to, hopefully accomplish. But I just obviously appreciate this community at St. Joe's. You guys have supported me like no other. I really just appreciate you guys giving me this platform to connect with you guys. And I hope that this has been helpful. And if there's any more questions or anything like that, feel free to fire it away. I know we're at 157 right now, but I'm good to go for, I don't have a hard stop, but if there's any more questions, I can answer them for the next 3 minutes.
Well, Tommy, we just appreciate you so much. There were so many valuable life lessons here that you just brought to the surface, and explaining how you overcame obstacles and, nothing held you back, and defining yourself as so much more than an athlete, and what athletics actually brought to the table for you is huge, was huge. And the discipline and the working with others and all those lessons that you don't really realize that at the time you're playing. It's just so much more than actually on that field or on that court or wherever you are playing wherever you are playing your sports. I'm very impressed. I have no doubt that we're going to be hearing a lot more about you. You are destined to greatness, and we're so proud that you are an SJR alum and that you're joining us here today. Thank you so much. I couldn't be more grateful.
Guys,
wonderful presentation.
Thank you guys so much for the time. John, I see your question here. I think I tried to answer most of it, but I was a poli-sci major at UNC. With any business class there that helped you specific skills? Honestly, no, but I wish I would have seeked it out more. My mom always, wanted me to do accounting classes, and I think that would have been super helpful. And, try to do some courses online or something like that. Use all the knowledge you can at school. And then for the advice for 2020 graduate, dream big, seek mentors, read a lot, continue to chase your dream. I really appreciate it, guys. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Coach Morangi, you're doing some great things at St. Joe's and pumped to be part of it. And thanks for all the great questions, guys. And if you guys have any more questions or anything comes up or want to speak to anyone, I could put my email in the chat. And if you guys reach out to me, and I would be more than happy to, get on the phone, or if you have questions about anything, and I can be a help in any way. Obviously, we're Fidelis for life and want to make sure that, we take care of each other. So again, guys, thank you so much for the time.
We're rooting for you. We're rooting for you, Tommy.
Thank you, guys. I got a long way to go, but you guys have helped me a lot. St.
Well
Joe.
on your way.
Appreciate it, guys. Thank you so much. I hope you have a great rest of your day. Go Green Knights.
Thanks. Our next week's program is going to be with Sergio Marrero, who is a O2 graduate. He's a venture capitalist. So all our finance and business interested students, please tune in for that. And then the following week is going to be Nick D'Alessandro, 03. He's a VP of National Private Banks and American Century Investments. So we got another two outstanding presenters that are being following Tommy. So thank you again for joining us. And once again, thank you, Tommy, for coming here with us today. Have a great day, everyone. Be well.